Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Vargo from VargoBeats.com. This is volume 2 of the video series Secret Art of Mixing. I'm going to keep this one short. Kind of what I'm going to be going over is tips on panning and stereo imaging and what it can do for your mix. A question I get a lot from young producers is, what is panning? Well, the actual definition for it is the spread of a sound signal into a new stereo sound field. Doesn't really make much sense if you don't know what you're talking about. Basically, it's just moving the sound from the left to the right. A lot of the times in your tracks, you'll hear that a sound sounds like it's coming out of the center of the track. Well, it's not really coming out of the center. That just means that it's being played equally loud out of each speaker, meaning it's not panned either way. It's not coming out louder out of either one. Another really important one that I get a lot is, what is stereo imaging? This one's a little bit harder to explain. See, as humans, our brains are pretty amazing. We actually create an image from the sounds that we hear, and we can create an image of those sounds if they're farther away, what side they're coming from. Obviously, if a sound is softer, then it sounds like it's farther away. If a sound is louder, it sounds like it's closer. Basically, stereo imaging is just a jargon term concerning the spatial locations of the sound source. So basically what I was just saying, where is the sound coming from? Stereo imaging is actually really, really important to your mix. Any well-mixed song that you hear from a major artist, they're going to have great stereo imaging because they have engineers that are in charge of just the stereo imaging of the track. It can really make or break your track in the end. So what does this mean in my mix? It's pretty simple. It means everything. A lot of the mistakes I hear from new producers is they don't have any kind of panning going on in their mix. They don't have any kind of stereo imaging. And you got to realize that in your mix, you only have so much space. So if everything that you're playing is in the middle of the track, there's no room for the vocals. It sounds weak. It sounds skinny, and that's one of the biggest problems. The well-mixed songs, they're going to have a mixture of subtle and dynamic panning and stereo imaging. Now, what this means is some of your sounds may be panned subtly. They may be panned only 20% to the left, or 30% to the right, and some of your sounds will be panned hard left or right, just depending on what the sound is. So it's up to you, as the producer or as the engineer, to create the best possible mix with what you have to work with. So there are two parts of the track really that I focus on. There's the center of the track and there's the outside of the track. And whenever I'm mixing, I go kind of by a basic formula, and this isn't going to be true for everybody, but for me, I'm going to kind of give you some guidelines on what you can do when you're mixing. These are the instruments or the tracks that should be in the center. First of all, the kick. There's nothing that irritates me more than hearing a beat or hearing a song and the kick is only coming out of one speaker. Like, I don't know why you would do that. That's ridiculous. So keep your kick in the middle. Your primary snare should always be in the middle of the track. Now, sometimes you'll have secondary snares or claps or whatever, just to keep kind of the rhythm of the track going, or for effect, or whatever you put them in there for, and those can be panned a little bit. I actually prefer them to be panned because I don't like my snares to be on top of each other. So if you have a secondary snare, maybe 20% to the left or to the right. Another thing, your bass. Whether you're using an 808, bass guitar, electric bass, whatever you're using, your subwoofer sound should be coming out of the middle. You don't want your subwoofer sound panned to the right while your kick is in the middle. That's gonna sound awful. This one's kind of open to interpretation. Your primary lead, your primary melody in the song, whether it's a synth or a string or whatever you're using, generally is going to be in the middle of the track. Now, if you kind of have a sparse mix, if you don't have too many things going on and it's mainly drums and you just have a couple of little counter melodies going on or whatever, those can be panned a little bit. But for the most part, in most beats, your primary melody will be in the middle. And obviously your lead vocals or your primary vocals, these are going to want to be in the center. Obviously you're going to have other vocals, which I'm going to kind of move on to and explain that. But your main vocal line needs to be centered. That's the most important part of the track. Now we move on to the outside of the track. And there are a few things. When I say outside, I don't mean panned 100%, left or right. That's called a hard pan. And you don't want to do that for everything. But it's an art. So maybe your secondary lead, a secondary melody that you have throughout the song, can be panned a little bit to the left or the right, because you don't want, like I said, you don't want everything squashed in the middle of the track. It makes it sound bad. There's not enough room for the vocals, and it makes it sound skinny and weak. Your effects. Now, when I say effects, I don't mean effects over the whole track. I mean like a sound effect. Like if you're using a horn, If you're using a siren or whatever you choose to use, generally you can put them in the middle, but I like to pan them just a little bit. Because 20 or 30% isn't that much, and it just kind of clears it out of the middle, so you'll have a little bit of room for your vocals. Now, your background vocals or your filler tracks, depending on what genre you're using, is going to be called different things. A lot of the times you'll have multiple takes of these, 2 to 4 takes, and these will be panned hard left and right. If you hear any of the industry hip-hop songs or even the underground hip-hop songs, that's kind of a new trend to fill your track with that while having one main vocal line. But like I said, it's up to you. Your ad-libs, it's kind of tricky. Everybody's going to do things differently. Me personally, for my ad-libs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan them, maybe 15% to the left or the right, just so they're not on top of the vocals. And then I'm going to try to back them off a little bit. I'm going to make them a little bit quieter, and I'm going to try to make them sound farther away. And you can do that with reverb or a high-pass filter or whatever, but that's kind of not what I'm talking about in this video. So how do you put this to use? I've given you a ton of information today. I hope I didn't overload you. But it's pretty simple how you put it to use. There's a reason that I did this in a PowerPoint presentation instead of actually demonstrating, because you have to experiment. You have to do this on your own. You can't just watch a video on how to do it or even listen to information and know how to do it. So what I was kind of trying to do is let you get a visual of what I was talking about, and then you got to go out there and experiment, and you got to find your own signature style. Every engineer is different. Every mixing engineer, producer, or whatever is going to do something different. So there's no formula for doing it. If there was a formula for doing it, they would have made a plug-in for it. So it's just kind of touch and go. So go experiment. So things are going to sound bad at first. You might be great at it when you first start. I doubt it, but you never know. Now, if you need your tracks mixed, and I know you're thinking, oh my God, he's trying to sell me something. I'm really not. I don't really have that much time to mix tracks. But if you do, you can always visit vargobeats.com. Obviously, I have beats. I'm a producer. This is my career. And I do have mixing and mastering services available. I don't know how available they're going to be, but they're pretty affordable. You're not going to have to kill your budget to do it. If you watched any of my other videos, or if you know me, you kind of know my production credits. I've been doing this. I'm credible. This is my career. So if you want to shoot me an email, it's info@vargobeats.com. And another thing I was kind of wanting to tell you before you go is I'm actually in the process of working on a whole package of Fruity Loops tutorials. It's going to be over 12 hours of video from the most basics of Fruity Loops all the way to the advanced, how to make a beat, how to mix and master, everything you need to know about Fruity Loops. So if you're interested in this for the future, you can go to vargobeats.com, obviously, and you can sign up on the little pop-up ad. You just put your name and email, and it'll send you a free beat, and then I'll kind of have you on record that you're interested, and I'll be able to send you updates or whatever when that comes out. So once again, I'd like to thank you for stopping by. Until next time.